The worst of Netflix original movies. The rules are simple. I find a Netflix original movie. I look up its rating on IMDB and Rotten Tomatoes. If it has less than a 5 out of 10 on IMDB and less than a 50% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, then it qualifies for a viewing, and we discover if the low ratings were deserved or not. With the rules explained, it's time to start the show. For today's episode, we have the 2021 movie Prey. So this is a German movie. It is directed and written by Thomas Sabin. It stars David Cross, Hanno Koffler, and Maria Enrich. I hope I pronounced those names right. So this came out September 10th, 2021. And the premise is, a hiking trip into the wild turns into a desperate bid for survival for 5 friends on the run from a mysterious shooter. So I'm guessing this is going to be like Germany's take on The Most Dangerous Game, which, I mean, that concept has been done plenty of times. It is a cool concept, though. Basically, a hunter hunting down humans, usually in the woods. I guess we can see how this one's going to play out, but according to the audience, it did not play out so good. This movie has an IMDb rating of 4.2 out of 10, and it has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 5% out of 100 plus ratings. Ooh, that is really bad. Even the Rotten Tomatoes score isn't all that good, with 17%, but 5%. Oh man, that's really, really low. Oh man. So I wonder what I'm getting myself into. All right, so the movie is German, so I will be watching it with the original voice acting, and I will be watching it subtitle. Just because for the purpose of these reviews, I feel like if I'm going to be grading a movie, I got to grade it the way that it was meant to be watched. And since this is originally German, I'm going to have to watch this originally in German. I feel like that only makes it fair. But yeah, this is not looking good with those ratings. We'll see. We'll see if the ratings are wrong, because we've had that before. We've had it. We've had a couple of movies where I felt the ratings were, well, one that was completely off, and then other ones I felt like it could have been higher than it deserved. So we'll see if this movie deserves its 3% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, or if this is one of those where I feel like the audience is being a little bit too harsh. All right, so let's watch the movie and get the review going. Welcome back. All right, so I just finished watching Prey, and yeah, it was something. Oh man, how should I explain this movie? You know what? Let's just get right into this. I'll do what I always do. I'll go through the movie and give critiques and stuff along the way. We start off with our main character. His name is Roman, and he's with his woman, his fiance, and they're having a great time on the beach and stuff and making out and things like that. And then we cut to Roman and his quote-unquote friends kayaking in the woods. So his friends are Vincent, Albert, who is actually his brother. This other guy I just called the Woodsman because that's what everyone kind of nicknames him. And Peter. And I say friends in quotes because these guys really don't seem like friends. Like they do in the beginning, but once crap hits the fan, it's almost like they're just a bunch of strangers. Like they turn on each other on the drop of a dime. It's really something. But yeah, they're out in the woods. They're kayaking. Then they're like having fun in the water and stuff. And they're out here because it is Roman's bachelor party in a sense. They spent the night before, getting drunk and I guess at a strip club, and now they're doing the woods camping thing because Roman is engaged to his fiance and they're going to get married soon. And so they're all having fun. And this is where we're kind of introduced to all the characters and stuff like that. Roman is the guy who, like, when I first saw Roman, I was like, this guy looks like somebody. Who the hell does he remind me of? And then it clicked in like halfway through the movie. He looks like one of the brothers from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the Milk Brothers. I forgot what the hell their names were, but he looks like one of them. So there's Roman, there's Vincent, who is the Asian guy. There is the Woodsman, who is in the blue jacket. There's Peter, aka the asshole, who is in the yellow jacket, and then there's Albert, who's the brother. So the Woodsman, we see him knowing his way. He knows his way around the woods. He knows how to start a fire. He takes them to this location to kind of go and, shoot some pictures of a castle and things like that. On the way back, as they're walking on the trail, we get some tension between Albert and Roman, the two brothers. Basically, Roman wants to get a job. He put a job application in the same company that Albert works at. Not only does Albert work at it, but he's actually the boss. So Roman's like, how's the job thing? Have I gotten the job yet? And Albert is basically kind of saying how he doesn't have any say in that, how it's like the investors who are the ones who decide. Basically, you can kind of tell that he's kind of lying out of his ass. Because, he's the CEO of the company. Obviously, if he wants to hire his brother, he can. But for some reason, he's not all enthusiastic about doing that. And along the way, they see a little stuffed unicorn leaning up against a tree. And Albert's, picks it up and he puts it in his pocket. And he says, this is going to be a souvenir for our trip. So yeah, they continue on their journey. We both mostly get the friendship between Roman and Vincent. Roman and Vincent are the ones that actually seem like they give a crap about each other. Everybody else, well, I guess the woodsman is pretty friendly with everybody. The Peter is not really, and Albert not really. They kind of come across as assholes. Vincent and Roman are the ones who are they actually seem like they're good friends. And there's even a moment where Vincent slips and almost, falls into a ledge, and Roman is able to grab him and pull him up, and he even covers for him later on because he knows that Vincent is scared of heights. So yeah, they're just kind of chilling and talking along the way, and throughout the entire movie, we get flashbacks between Roman and his fiance, and lovey-dovey moments that they have. There's one moment where she gets him a necklace that says "Love Lisa" on it, and gives it to him. Basically, saying I love you. So I was kind of all right, how's this? Why do they keep showing these flashbacks? How's this going to play a part into the movie? So we see them walking. They're walking towards their car when all of a sudden they hear gunfire. And they heard shots earlier, and they thought, oh, maybe it's this hunting season. But they hear shots now, and it's a lot closer. And they're kind of wondering what the hell's going on. And all of a sudden they see Vincent just kind of standing there. And they notice that he's been shot in the arm. They rush him to the car. They start bandaging him. They start yelling out, hey, watch where you're shooting, you hit us, blah, blah, blah. And then that's when they receive another shot at the car. And then that's when they realize, oh, crap, someone's actually trying to shoot us. They didn't accidentally hit us. They're purposely trying to shoot us. And this is when, people, they kind of start freaking out, what the hell's going on? Why is someone trying to shoot us? What the hell did we do? There's a weird moment where the person shoots at their tire, and they're let's get in the car and drive. And they're no, we can't. The tire's been shot. And I'm just dude, you can still drive a car with a flat tire. Obviously, it's going to be a lot bumpier, and you're not going to be able to, do all the maneuvers that you want to do, but you can still drive a car with the tire shot. Thankfully, one of them is smart enough to bring that up a few minutes later. They're well, we can still drive. But then the person, the shooter, shoots a bullet through the window. So they're all right, we got to get out of here. Look, across from us is the woods. We can make our run for that, and maybe we can lose them in the woods. So they all make a break for the woods, and as they're making a run for the woods, they're getting shot at. Albert drops his phone, and then he yells at Roman, my phone is important. So then Roman doubles back, grabs the phone. He gets shot at again, but luckily the shooter misses, and then Roman rushes after and gives his phone to Albert. At this point in time, I'm why is this dude so obsessed with this phone, especially when they realize that they have no signal? And then that's when it clicked in my head. Earlier, we had a moment where Peter is joking to Albert about how many photos of naked women does he receive, on his phone a day. And he says not, and he jokes back, not enough. And then I immediately thought, oh, okay, I know where this is going. One of the naked photos is going to be Roman's fiance. That's what the twist is going to be. It's going to be that Roman discovers that his brother was having an affair with his fiance. And yeah, that's what ends up happening. I'm saying this way too early because this is I'm going to spoil the movie because I'm going to talk about the entire movie, but that's the twist later on. That's the twist near the end, but by around the end of the second act, beginning of the third act, is the fact that Roman's brother's been sleeping with his fiance. But you can easily piece this together within the first few minutes of the movie. I figured this out before the 20-minute mark. As soon as they made the thing about naked women on the phone, and then Albert being so obsessed with having his phone and not letting anyone else use it, it's kind of okay, it's because there's naked photos of Roman's fiance. So That's the twist that goes right out the window really quickly because yeah, it didn't shock me at all. I saw that coming a mile away. And yeah, so they're hunkered down. They're in the woods. They're wondering what the hell to do. At this point in time, Albert takes a step and he steps into this little hole and he gets scratched up a little bit. And I guess later on, this scratch becomes infected because they keep pointing out like that Albert is injured and he's kind of hobbling, and because of that, he's slowing everybody down. But when you first see the scratch, it's just a little tiny scratch. It's like nothing for you to be hobbling over. Like I've gotten worse scratches by like my cat. So yeah, it's just okay. I guess something to have the tension. But yeah, for some reason this reminds him of a flashback that he had with his fiance where she got, I think, stung by a jellyfish or something, and he basically cares for her. And yeah, we see them kind of walking. They're like, all right, on the phone that Albert has that he took a photo earlier, there is a road across the way. It's pretty far, but if we get that, we can follow the road and maybe find some help. So they're traveling through the woods to try to get there. And there's a scene where they're basically they're on a little stepping stone, and it's funny because it makes it seem like this water's super deep, but it only comes up to their ankle. And you find this out because Peter slips, he falls in the water, and he gets one of his feet wet, and then he starts having a bitch fit and just starts cussing at everybody and stuff. And they're like, "Really, dude? Because you got your shoe wet?" This is when they like start kind of turning on each other and start yelling at each other and things. And I'm just like, are these supposed to be like really good friends? Like this guy, this is a bachelor party, right? This guy's gonna get married, so you would assume that he would take his closest and most dearest friends. And then now they're turning on each other because one of them got their foot wet. It's like, okay, I know you guys are stressed because you guys got shot at. That doesn't excuse turning on each other so quickly. But they're still working together, but they're kind of like at each other's throats. Vincent's like freaking out and things like that. So they continue walking, and as they're walking, they see this woman standing by a lake, and they start calling out to her, and she doesn't say anything. So they start coming a little bit closer, and they say, hey, like my friend's been shot. That's when she turns around. She walks over to her coat. She picks up a rifle, and then she shoots the woodsman in the head and kills him. And then that's when you find out, oh, this is our shooter. And right then I was like, oh no, what are you doing? Why did you do that? Why did you show who the killer was not even 30 minutes into your movie? I would not have done that at all. If you had to have this figure here, I wouldn't show, the woman that clearly. I would have had her wearing, because she wears like a raincoat poncho kind of thing. I would have had her had that on, have the hoodie up, and she's just standing by the water. And then they're just asking like the person, like, hey, we need help. Our friend's been shot. And then I'll have the person turn around and shoot the woodsman. But I would make sure that like the hood kind of comes down so you don't see the person's features. Because now, like, not only do we have a clear shot of her, but not even moments later, she shoots the woodsman. Everyone freaks out. They all rush out. And then she walks up close to the dead woodsman's corpse, and then we get a close-up of her face. And right there, it's like you just threw the suspense right out the window, because now we know what the killer looks like in clear, in a clear close-up. And one thing about horrors, this isn't a horror technically. This is supposed to be like, it's considered an adventure drama, but I would also consider it maybe more like a thriller. The thing that you would do is you if you want to build tension, you want to build horror, don't ever show your villain. Whether it's a slasher killer, whether it's a demon or a ghost or an alien or whatever it might be, don't ever show your killer in bright lights, close up so you can see all the details. You want to hide the killer as much as possible. I mean, look at Jaws, for example. For Jaws, they hid Jaws throughout most of the movie. I know that was not intentional, but it ended up working for the better. Look at the first Alien movie. The first Alien movie, you see little snippets of the alien here and there, and you don't see the actual alien until much, much, much later on, like near the end of the movie. You don't ever want to show your killer in broad daylight, not even 20 minutes into your movie. It just ruins all the suspense. So now it's like, oh, okay, so now it's a woman in a poncho shooting these people. And it's not the fact that it's a woman doing it. It's the fact that you don't show her. Like when it was earlier on, when they were getting shot at in the truck or by their truck, that was a lot creepier because they couldn't see where the shots were coming from. So it could be anywhere. You have no idea who this person is. You have no idea if it's one person or two or three or four. You have no idea what's going on. You just have something in the woods is shooting at us. And now because of that, like, we can project whatever we want into the killer. That's another reason you never want to show your monster or anything like that. Is because what people come up with in their heads is always going to be much more terrifying than what you can do with special effects or makeup or anything like that. So yeah, don't do that. But they did. They ruined the surprise of, hey, our killer is a woman with a poncho and a rifle, a hunting rifle. It's like, oh, okay, thanks. That just you just kind of threw all the tension right out the window. They rush for a while and then they hunker down. And then they're kind of like, oh man, like the woodsman is dead. What the hell do we do now? And then this is where they really turn on each other. Because Peter is like, why don't we all go our separate ways? Like, there's only one of her and there's four of us. If we all run in different directions, there's no way she can get all of us. And Vincent is the one that says, no, like, we should stick together. And Peter's like, no, like, do we really want to stick with Albert? Like, Albert is holding us back. Like, we're not able to run quickly because Albert is his foot is injured or it's infected, whatever. He's hobbling, and because of that, we have to carry his dead weight. And Roman actually agrees, and I'm just like, dude, this is your brother. At this point in time, you don't know that he's having an affair with your fiance, but he's like, yeah, we should separate. And then Albert basically begs, like, Vincent, like, like, we're gonna stick together, right? And Vincent's like, yeah, like, we should stick together as a group. And then Peter and Roman are like, all right, fine. And so they start, walking and things like that. They start walking away. And then Peter turns to Roman and then it's like, he's going to slow us down. And then Roman says, but he's my brother. And I'm just like, wait a second. Not 30 seconds ago, you were agreeing with Peter that you guys should go your separate ways because Albert is holding you down. And now all of a sudden you're agreeing with Albert and Vincent because Albert's your brother? Like, dude. That whole scene was stupid. Like, what I would have done, I would have had Peter be the one saying we should go our separate ways, and then have Vincent, Albert, and Roman say, no, we're better if we stick together. And then Peter's like, fine, whatever. Like, if all three of you are going to stick together, then I might as well stick with you. Like, that would have been a lot better. But to have Roman agree with Peter, and then not only a few seconds later started agreeing with the rest of the group and say, no, we can't do that because Albert is my brother. It's like your main character is flip-flopping here. But yeah, so they decide to stick together. We get another flashback where we see Roman rubbing some kind of cream on his fiance's leg where she was like, bitten or stung by a jellyfish, just something like that, whatever it was. Yeah, well, we just get more of them just walking in the woods, and there's a lot of that going on. Peter is starting to kind of become an issue. He's starting to kind of pick fights with everybody else. So yeah, this group is kind of falling apart, but they're still sticking together at this point in time. And yeah, we get just a lot more walking in the woods, and then we get a cut of our killer, and she's walking in the woods, and so now we're following our shooter for a while, and then we come back to the rest of the group, and I'm just like, why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep showing your killer? Stop. Please. This is not what you do to build tension. I wouldn't have shown the killer at all. I would keep the killer as some kind of mystery figure. Okay, you want the killer at the woods to shoot the woodsman? That's fine. I mean, one thing you could have done was you could have shown like a figure sitting in a chair or whatever. And then they see the figure and they start calling out to the figure and nothing's happening. So they come close and they realize that it's a trap. It was bait. And then that's when the woodsman gets killed. That way you don't have to show your killer at this point in time. Or you can do something similar. Basically, you can portray this killer as, okay, this is someone who, they're a marksman. They live, or at least they're very familiar with these woods. They probably have some kind of hunting skills. Like, they're kind of using like baits and stuff to kind of lure in their prey. Only this time their prey isn't animals, but their prey are humans. Like, you could have done something like that. Or like I said before, if you wanted to show the killer, you could have had them wearing the poncho with the hoodie up, and then when they turn around, the hoodie's still obscuring their face, and then they shoot the woodsman, and then everyone takes off, and then leave it at that, and then leave it as these people are in the woods. They have no idea where the killer is. They have no idea if the killer is close, if the killer is still chasing them, where the killer is at. But the fact that you keep cutting to where the killer is and showing the location of the killer, it kind of destroys all the tension. Like, I'm just sitting there like, oh, okay. So she's in the woods now. She's walking. All right. Like, I really don't understand what the writer and the director was going with this. I think this was just a really poor decision. You're showing way too much of this killer. But anyways, at some point in time, they find like this little shack, and I believe it's like a little store or something. And they rush inside, and there's a woman there, and they basically like ask her to use the phone, and she's like, "Well, I never get any signal out here. All we have here is the landline." It's like, all right, then use the freaking landline. So she pulls the landline out, and they start calling the police. And there's like a really weird moment where like they're kind of talking to the lady as they're trying to get the police on the phone. And they're like, do you know anyone who, lives in the woods? Did you hear any of the shots? One of my friends has been shot. And Albert says something weird like, there was an incident. There was a woman at the lake. We need the police. And it's like, why do you have to make it so anonymous like that? Like, it makes it almost seem like you're the one that did something to a woman. You're not painting yourself in a really good light. You just straight up say, there's some psycho out there shooting at us. They hit my friend in the arm, and they killed one of my other friends by shooting him in the head. It's this crazy woman with a gun. Whatever, okay? They get the police on the line. They start telling the police, hey, there's someone out here in the woods shooting at us. We're in this hut. And then they try to ask the clerk, like, where exactly are we at? But then she gets shot in the head, and now she's dead. And then everyone ducks down, and they can hear, like, over the phone, the police or the dispatcher is saying, can you repeat that? I didn't hear you. So they go to reach over for the phone again, and then another shot rings out close to the phone, and then there's a couple more shots. And so they're hunkered down. They're kind of wondering, okay, what the hell are we gonna do? Like, and that's when they see a door leading outside, and they're like, okay, let's make a break for the door. And again, I'm like, why? Why are you making a break for the door? You're in this tiny building, all right? She can't shoot at you where you're at right now. She would have to get into the house to shoot at you. If she does that, there's 4 of you and 1 of her. So I'm pretty sure you guys can gang up on her. So why in the hell would you leave? Like, this doesn't make any sense. You have cover. You're in this tiny place. You have a phone, so you can try to wait out this woman. Or you can maybe use, like, I don't know, maybe grab a stick or use something to kind of knock the phone receiver to you, so you can keep calling the cops and just tell them, like, hey, like, we're in this hut. We have no idea where exactly we're at, but this psycho lady is shooting at us. Please send help. But no, instead they're like, okay, there's a door. It leads out into the woods. Let's keep running. Let's keep doing what we were doing before, which was not helping at all. And so Roman is kind of like, no, like, we shouldn't do that at first. And I'm like, okay, like, at least someone's making sense. Why would you run out into the... I'm struggling here because my brain just can't process this. There's a woman with a gun shooting at you. You're inside a building. She can't hit you from there. She can only hit you through the window. So as long as if you stay low, she can't get to you. She would have to come inside. And if she comes inside, you can grab her because now you're in close quarters. Close quarters benefits you, not her. This is one woman with a rifle. You guys are 4 men in peak physical condition, I would say. You guys are in your late 20s to early mid 30s. You guys have the leg up when it comes to close quarters. So stay here, force her to come to you, and then beat the shit out of her. But instead, they're like, no, let's make her wait for the door. They're like, all right, fine, we all agree. And then that's when they're like, how about you, Vincent? And then they turn, they see Vincent has been shot in the neck. And Vincent's like slowly crawling towards them as he's bleeding out. He reaches out his arm. Roman grabs his hand, and just as he grabs his hand, a bullet goes and hits Roman in the head. I was able to hit Vincent in the head at that angle. I don't know, but it does. And then Roman goes crazy, and he grabs some can of Spam or something. He starts chucking it out the window. And then they all rush out the building. And they're kind of like laying low, and they're like, have you seen her? No, I didn't see her. Hey, Roman, maybe you hit her. Yeah, maybe you hit her with that can of Spam, and now she's out of commission. Sure, let's go with that. So yeah, they're in the woods. They make their way, and they see like a road. So they start walking along the road, And then Albert starts hobbling. So Peter basically puts his arm around him, starts kind of carrying him along. And at this point, I'm like, you should have switched that. You should have had Roman be the one to help his brother. The fact that Peter, the quote unquote asshole of the group, is the one helping Albert, and Roman, the brother, is just kind of standing there not doing anything, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, you would think it would be the brother that would be helping out. See, that's another thing. You know what? I'll bring this up later on. I'll bring this up when we get to it later. But yeah, we have them. They're walking the woods, and then they see they're like looking around, and they see the killer. And the killer is to their right, and she's walking alongside them, but she doesn't notice them. And so their great idea was, let's keep going. So instead of turning around and maybe going back to the shack, or instead of maybe ducking down and crawling on the floor so she can't see you, or maybe instead of going in the opposite direction as her, they instead decide to keep walking parallel to her. Why, I don't know, but yeah, they decide to do that. And then of course she obviously at one point notices them and she shoots at them. And they're kind of like, you know, putting their hands up. They're like, you know, why are you doing this? What do you want? Is it money? But she comes closer. Once again, we see her out in the open. She just kind of stares at them and she doesn't do anything. And there's a point in time wherein one of them says, like, you know, what's she doing? Like, why isn't she shooting? This doesn't make any sense. And then another one says, none of this makes any sense. And then they rush off. And I'm like, yeah, that could sum up this entire movie. Nothing makes any sense. Why was she so gung-ho at shooting all? Like, she's willing to even shoot the woman in the hut, even though she didn't do anything. Why is she shooting these people? And then now when she has a chance to shoot at them, she doesn't. Like, is this some kind of game to her? So she lets them rush off into the woods again. So they do. And then once again, they're kind of chilling. They're hanging out. There's they're hanging like against like a giant rock. And then Roman kind of looks and he sees the killer again. And she's like looking in another direction. So he grabs a stick and he throws it behind them. And then when she walks away, they make a run for it. And they eventually come across this village, or this like, I would say it's a village. It's like 5 or 6 houses or huts or whatever you want to call it. And they kind of take a break. And I'm like, you know what? For people who have been shot at and who have lost, you know, 2 friends and also saw an innocent clerk get killed, you guys don't really seem to be in any hurry to get the hell out of here. You guys seem to be taking your time. You're taking a lot of breaks. Like, there's no urgency at all with these people. But yeah, they're sitting down. They try their phone again. Once again, no signal. And then this is when Peter brings up, hey, like, we should leave Albert here. And then Albert gets upset. And he's like, you're slowing us down. Why don't we leave him in one of the houses? We'll go on our own. We'll get the cops. And then we'll come back with the cops to collect him. And then Roman's like, no, you know, I can't do that. He's my brother and stuff. And then again, it's like, I feel like this isn't. Oh my God, I'm struggling to explain this. You had Peter earlier helping carry Alberts. Now you're having Peter suggest that they abandon Alberts. This is why it would have made more sense if Roman had been the one carrying him. This is why it would have made more sense if Roman was the one who sided with Alberts and not just Vincent. You keep flip-flopping between, should we stay as a group or should we abandon them? Peter first says we should abandon, we should all go our separate ways. Then he's the one that helps carries Albert. Now he's saying we should abandon Albert. Roman says, yeah, I agree with Peter, we should leave. Then he says, no, we can't leave because, you know, we should stick together. Even if Albert's slowing us down, he's my brother. Then later on, he doesn't help Peter carry Albert. Now all of a sudden he's like, no, Albert's my brother, we should stick together. You have your characters keep flip-flopping on what they want to do. Yeah, Peter's like, all right, you know what? Fine. Like, you can stay with Albert. You can trust him if you want, but he's a liar. He's never going to let you get that job. And maybe you should ask him about Lisa. And then Peter goes off on his own. And then, of course, Roman starts questioning Albert, like, you know, what does he mean about Lisa? And Albert, you know, says, hey, like, he's just trying to get us at each other's throats. Like, don't believe him. I'm your brother, okay? And then Roman's just like, yeah, okay, fine. And so Albert decides to just chill out and rest on the tree stump. And Roman decides to go investigate a house. And because he hears like this noise, and it turns out to be a crow, or not a crow, a falcon. It's like a falcon inside this cage. and next to the cage is a little gravestone for, I'm assuming, a child, because there's letters that spell Anne, and there's like a little stuffed teddy bear and a pinwheel and stuff. So it's a child's grave. And then we have Roman. He walks inside the house and he sees a newspaper of the shooter with the little girl. And he sees a computer and he turns on the computer and it's a video playing. And the video shows these drunk campers. One of them is carrying a rifle, and then they see this woman and her child at the lake. And then they start kind of harassing her, and she tells them to go away, and she gets closer and puts her hand up. And then we hear a gunshot, and then we see that the child was shot in the head and killed. And the woman starts freaking out and crying over her dead child. And then the other drunk shooters, they basically say, let's get the hell out of here, and they drop the camera and they run. So this is where you get your story of what's going on. So basically, the shooter lost her daughter to a bunch of drunks. And I'm like, okay, I mean, that's sympathetic. Like, you can sympathize with her in that regard, but not enough, because she's killing a bunch of other people who had nothing to do with that. So also, it's weird how he takes the time to watch this video and stuff, and he doesn't think whatsoever like, hey, there's a computer here. Maybe I should see if I can contact the outside world in some way. Or maybe I should check the house and see if there's a phone. Maybe I can call the cops from here. But instead, no. Instead, he goes into Anne's room. He starts playing music. And then he leaves. So it's just kind of like, what? Did we really just have him come in here just so we can get the exposition on why this woman is psycho? And really? You're not going to go with anything else? Like, at least have, Roman look around the house and then come out and say, like, there was a computer in there, but I couldn't, there's no internet and I couldn't find a phone. Just something to make it seem like, at least he tried, but he didn't. And it's weird because it's like, there's no urgency in any of these characters. I mean, I guess there is in Peter, and he got the F out of there. But Albert's just chilling out in the open on a tree stump. Roman is just playing music in the house of the killer. It's like, have these characters lost their minds? Do they have no sense of self-preservation whatsoever? Like, you would think, hey, maybe we shouldn't be out in the open. Maybe, hide in one of the houses. At least that's what I would be thinking if I was Albert. I wouldn't be chilling out in the wide open spaces knowing that there's a killer out there trying to kill us. And for Roman, again, he knows that this is the killer's house. And he's just kind of chilling and walking around. And even when he comes out, there's no sense of urgency. There's no like, she lives here. We got to get the F out of here. Nothing like that whatsoever. Like, none of this makes any sense. So, we see Peter, and Peter's on his own now, and he's walking on a road when all of a sudden he gets shot in the leg. And then, of course, Albert and Roman hear the gunshot, and they start, going towards the noise. And then he gets shot in the other leg, and he falls. And Peter's like, begging the killer, and we see the killer eventually up in front of him. And she's walking towards him slowly. And as she's doing that, she shoots him in one shoulder, and he continues to beg. And then she shoots him in the other shoulder as he continues to beg. So she's basically just kind of torturing this dude. Because, she shoots him in, like I said, in both legs and the shoulders. Like, he's just on the ground. He can't go anywhere. He can't move his legs. He can't move his arms. He's just begging for her not to kill him. And Roman and Albert come just in time to see her put a bullet in his head. And then she turns the gun on them, and she shoots, and it hits Albert in the shoulder. And then Roman grabs Albert and kind of helps carry him away. They put some distance between them and the killer. I wouldn't even say that much, though. She can easily catch up with them. But they decide, hey, now is the perfect time to take another break. So Albert sits down, and Roman sits across from him. And once again, they're resting in the open, not far from the killer. And I'm just like, man, these have got to be like the stupidest people alive. So at this point in time, Albert dozes off. He's like, I just got to rest. Like, his leg is causing a problem. He just got shot. maybe his blood loss. I don't know, but he kind of passes out. And Roman fiddles with his pocket, pulls out his phone, and is holding it up, trying to look for a signal, and he's not getting one. And he starts to put it away when he decides maybe now is the perfect time to look through his phone. So he grabs his brother's hand and uses his thumbprint to activate the phone. And then he goes to messages, and he sees a message of his wife naked. You don't see anything though, because she has her breasts, pressed against the bed. But she's like, I can't wait to see you. Tell your brother I said hi. I'm like, all right, this woman's just a straight up bitch. We see another flashback. We see Roman making love to the woman, and then the next day, Albert shows up, and he's like, I told you I would come visit, and having breakfast or whatever. And then Roman's like, oh, I'm gonna go to the store, and he goes, and Albert is left alone with Lisa, and basically asks her, like, is your leg, like, does it hurt that much? And she kind of flirts back with him, and then he moves in, and you don't see it, but it's obvious they're about to have sex. And I'm like, okay. I mean, we kind of figured that out. Like all the flashbacks, just I don't know. I'm like, okay, is this gonna play a part later on? Does this mean anything? Like, it feels like they're trying to do what the movie The Descent did, where you have the women who are going spelunking or cave diving, whatever you want to call it, and then all of a sudden, they start getting killed off one by one, and then there's just like, the best friends, and it turns out that one of them was having an affair with the other one's husband, and like it feels like that's what they're trying to do, but they pulled it off terribly, and it goes nowhere. Basically, Albert wakes up, he realizes that his brother knows, he apologizes. Roman is upset. He's like, don't say sorry if you don't mean it. Albert's like, are you going to leave me behind? And then Roman goes and punches him in the face and knocks him out, and then helps drag him, somewhere to where they can hide low for a bit. And then that's it. It's never brought up again. It goes nowhere. So it's like, why was this here? Did this contribute to the story in any way? No. So why do we have it? In fact, the whole point with the wife or the fiance is stupid. Here's what I would have done. I would have had Lisa and Roman together in the beginning, and maybe they're at that they're having some kind of get together, or they're telling everyone that they're getting engaged, whatever. Like we see them being a happy, loving couple, and then I would have had Vincent, Albert, and Peter there, and the woodsman. And we see them like, they're all celebrating, like, congratulations, like, we're so happy for you, blah, blah, blah. Like, we see their friendship there. And then one of them, is like, what should we do for your bachelors? And they kind of joke, hey, let's go to the strip club or whatever. And then that's when Roman comes up, like, hey, I've kind of, woodsman, I remember you telling me about this area that you used to go camping and stuff. And that looks, kind of fun. I kind of want to try that out. And then that's when we see them going on their trip, and they go kayaking and stuff. Basically, I would have built that up so that, like, you build up the friendship a lot more, so that when people start dying, it will have more of an impact. Because when people start getting killed off in this, you don't really care, because it's like you don't really see much of them. Like, it doesn't take long before they start dying, and you don't really see too much of a friendship or bonding. So I would have done that in the beginning. I would have had like 5 minutes of them having, a bonding moment, and the fiance being there. And I would have taken out the affair story whatsoever. I would have the fiance there just to set up the bachelor trip. So that way, okay, it's like, okay, we're going on this bachelor trip in the woods. We're going to go camping. Yay. That's all. And then she would have just disappeared. You don't have to bring her up again, because she plays no part in this story. She's just there just to set up them going on a camping trip. And also that moment can be used to show up the friendship and the relationship between all these characters. That's what I would have done. That way we can get more of these characters. We can see what they're like, have some funny moments with them, have some have moments where we see them actually being really good friends to each other and stuff. That way when they start dying later on, it has an impact. That movie, what was it called? What was that movie called with Seth Green and stuff, where they go out into the woods to look for D.B. Cooper's money? Like that movie did a better job of showcasing their friendship in the beginning with the montages of like the home videos and stuff like that. Like I'm not saying copy that, but do something similar. Like show them being really good friends and having each other's back and stuff like that. That way, when you start killing them off later on, it really has more of an impact because it's like these are characters that you've grown to like connect with and stuff like that. But no, they didn't do that. So this becomes almost like a poorly run slasher movie where you just have a bunch of like teenagers you don't give a crap about getting killed off. Only there's no crazy kills because everyone's just getting shot with a rifle. But yeah, this twist, I put in quotation marks, gets brought up and then it's dropped. It contributes nothing whatsoever to the story. That's the end of it. Oh, hey, I just found out my brother is having an affair with my fiance, and I punch him, and then it's over. We don't come back to this whatsoever. It's done with. So that's the end of the Lisa subplot. Lisa, you're tearing me apart. And you are tearing me apart, Lisa, because all the little flashbacks that we had with you could have been better spent on other things. But yeah, so he drags his brother to like a little cliff entrance. He doesn't actually bring him into the cliff, but he kind of hides him in between some rocks. And then he rips off the bracelet that says "Love, Lisa," and he throws it on his brother's chest. And then he pulls out a knife and he cuts his brother's shirt. And his brother is thinking, "Oh, is he gonna kill me?" And then he presses it against the bullet wound and tells his brother, put pressure on that. So his brother does. And then that's when Roman witnesses the killer and he sees the killer heading somewhere in a different direction. So he follows after her and he goes into a cave. And inside the cave, he sees the body of his friends. He sees Peter's corpse. He sees the woodsman's corpse. He sees Vincent's corpse. He sees the corpse of all his friends that have been killed by this woman. And then he sees the ladder and he climbs up the ladder and he sees the killer standing over a cliffside. And so Roman pulls out a knife and he slowly sneaks up on her. And then right when he gets close enough, he accidentally steps on a twig and she turns around with the rifle and then he raises his arms up like, don't shoot. But he's holding the knife and I'm like, dude, you should have just rushed her right then and there. Or you should have thrown your knife at her before, like, even if you step on the twig and it snaps, you could have rushed her before she turned around or as she's turning around. You could have easily closed that distance. You could have thrown that knife at her, something. But instead, he puts his arms up, and of course, she shoots him. And then she starts approaching him, and then he says, like, I know about Anne. I know what happened. And then he pulls out the unicorn, and she stops, and she kind of just stares at this unicorn. It's a unicorn that belonged to her daughter. And then he kind of tosses the unicorn at his feet. And she gets close to, I guess, pick it up or whatever. And that's when he kicks her. And then they start wrestling for the gun. So now we have not a fight scene, but we have them. They're rolling on top of each other. They're trying to choke each other. He chokes her at one point. She starts choking him at another point. They go and they're wrestling for the gun. At one point, he has like his hands on the gun. She has her hands on the gun. She uses it to start choking him, but he refuses to let go. He pushes her off, and then he stands up, and now he has the gun. And he aims it at her. And I'm like, pull the trigger, dude. Shoot her. Like, I don't care if this woman lost her daughter. She went out of her way. She killed Vincent. And she killed the woodsman. And she killed Peter. And she killed the woman in the store. People who had nothing whatsoever to do with her daughter's death. And for some of them, at least in Peter's case, she tortured him. She shot him in the legs. She shot him in the shoulders. And then she kind of just stood over him as he begged her to let him live before she shot him in the face. Like, she took her time doing all this. She stalked and she hunted you guys down. And she murdered you off one by one. Now you have the gun. You have it aimed at her. Shoot her. But he doesn't. And I'm just like, oh man, this is so effing dumb. So instead of shooting her, he stares at her for a moment, and then he chucks the rifle off the cliff. And she just kind of stares at him blankly, and then she just slowly walks backwards until she's at the cliff edge, and then she jumps off and kills herself. And I'm just like, why? What, because someone showed her forgiveness. Now she can die in peace or something. Like, this whole series of events doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's stupid. It's freaking dumb. But yeah, she dies, and then Peter sits down and he rests at a rock, and he closes his eyes, and then the movie ends. And I'm like, that was it? This movie was infuriating because I can see glimpses of like what could have been. Like, this could have been a cool story. Like, it's not a unique premise. It's basically the most dangerous game. It's been done so many times about someone hunting people in the woods. It's nothing new. Still, it's still a fun premise, and you could have had some cool fun with it. But no, there's no sense of urgency from any of these people. They don't seem to, like, they're constantly stopping and taking breaks out in the middle of nowhere, knowing that there's someone hunting them down. There's, like I said, there's no sense of urgency. There's they keep making stupid mistakes that don't make any sense. Like the whole shack incident, and just, again, taking breaks out in the middle of nowhere, walking alongside the killer, parallel when she doesn't see them, rather than ducking down or running in the opposite direction or something. Then there's stupid things like the constant flashbacks of Lisa that don't contribute anything to the story. The twist, which you can easily figure out in 10 minutes of the movie, that Albert is having an affair with Lisa, that goes nowhere. It literally goes nowhere. He kind of confronts his brother on it. His brother says he's sorry. He says, save your sorry unless you mean it. He punches him, and then that's it. So, okay, that went nowhere. You would think, like, okay, maybe the brother will be like, you know what? I did wrong by you. I fucked up. And the brother sacrifices himself in some way. Like, the brother is like, I'm going to lure her. I'm going to use myself as live bait. I'm going to lure her somewhere, and you get the jump on her. And the brother dies, sacrificing himself to save Roman. All right, there you go. That should be the only reason why you bring up the affair. So you can have this arc of Albert's kind of being a dick to his brother, not hiring him in his own company, having an affair with his fiancée, but in the end he gives up his life to give Roman a chance to live. So there's your character arc. You could have done that, but you didn't. So now you have all these things that, like, do the characters change in any way? No. Is Roman different in the end than he was in the beginning of the movie? No. Is Albert different now than he was in the beginning of the movie? No. Okay, so there's no character arc whatsoever between those characters. What's the character arc for the woman, the killer? That she shoots people and then at the end she kills herself? That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, the whole thing is stupid. Like, I don't know. Did she start killing them because they were in the woods? Did she start killing them because they took the unicorn? I don't think it was because they took the unicorn, because even when Roman gave the unicorn back, she was still trying to kill Roman. So there's nothing here makes any sense. The characters don't act in a believable way. They have no sense of urgency or self-preservation. They're constantly doing stupid mistakes. The killer, her motivation is what? She lost her daughter, so now she kills anybody that shows up in the woods. Okay. The twist with the wife contributes in no way. So yeah, it was stupid. The constant showing of the killer is also stupid. Like, if you wanted to reveal who the killer was, you should have revealed who the killer was when Roman goes in and sees the video. Which brings up the second thing. I would have had that scene later on. I would have had the twist of the child being killed way later. You bring it up when there's still like 20 to 30 minutes left of the movie. That's way too early. I would have had it later on. I would have had it maybe after Peter is killed, after Roman finds out that his brother was having an affair with his fiancée. Though, I mean, if it was me writing it, I wouldn't have had that plot point in this movie to begin with. But I would have had it later on. I would have had them, maybe they come to like a shack and they decide, okay, let's hide in here for a while. And then as he brings his brother inside the shack to rest, that's when they discover the bodies of their friends and they realize, oh crap, we're in the shack of the killer. And then that's when he sees a computer and like, maybe we can use it to contact help. And as soon as he gets on the computer, he sees the video. And then that's when she arrives. Something like that Like I would have saved the twist for a lot later on in the movie. I think just the reveal of the killer so quickly, like not even 20 minutes into the movie, was really really stupid. And the constant showing of her was really really stupid. It killed all the tension every time when we saw her. I think having an invisible killer would have been better. And by invisible, I don't mean that the killer is literally invisible, but I mean in the sense that the people can't see this killer. The killer is using the trees as cover. You just keep hearing gunshots, and you know the killer is around, but you can't see them. So because the killer can be anywhere, that brings up the tension. Because like, okay, the killer can be anywhere. Where can we run? Where can we hide? So yeah, I would have done something like that. But yeah, overall, this was just it was poorly done movie. No sense of urgency in the characters, the reveal of the killer, the reasoning for why the killer does what they did, the fiance subplots and twists and stuff. The fact that you didn't do a really good job of showing these characters being really good friends. Like you went way too quick to them being hunted. You should have built that up more. In fact, this movie is only like an hour and 20 something minutes. You could have easily dedicated about 10 minutes to show these friends having a good time and stuff like that before anything happened, and build up their friendship. The fact that there's no character arc. Characters end the movie the same way that they started the movie. Well, they either end up the same way or they end up dead. So yeah, in terms of the rating, I'll say IMDb got it right. It was about like a 4.5. I think Rotten Tomatoes 6% audience score is too low. I mean, don't get me wrong. This is a terribly done movie, but 6% seems just a little bit too harsh. The 17% audience score seems, yeah, around there. You know what? Maybe a 15% actually, now I'm thinking about it. So yeah, I'll say this is like a 4 out of 10. It was a subpar movie. It was terrible. There were glimpses of it where I can see what the director was trying to go with it, but there's just so many plot holes, so many writing issues with the no character arcs, characters acting stupid for no reason, characters flip-flopping when it comes to their personality. There's a lot bad with this movie. Yeah, there you go. There's Prey 2021. Just a movie that did not execute what it was going for. It could have been so much better, but it kind of failed at all aspects. The pacing, the plot, just the characters, the editing with the nonsensical flashbacks that bring nothing whatsoever to the story. Yeah, I mean, I went over it, everything. So I'm gonna end it here. This is not a good movie. So there you go. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Tell me what you guys think. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying the series. If you guys got any recommendations, I mean, I might already have it on the list because I have a huge list of movies that I got to do reviews for. But maybe there's something that I missed. So if there's a movie out there that's a Netflix original that has an IMDb score of less than 5 and a Rotten Tomatoes score of less than 50%, let me know. And if I don't have it on the list already, I'll add it to the list. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys have a good one. Take care, everybody. Later.